I'm Sophie.
And I'm Phaedra.
And this is my best view.
Sophie, what was your best view this week?
My best view was the fuck-ass, respectfully, village that we have been forced to live in for the past almost 8 months since our apartment flooded, in the rearview mirror of a car as we finally drove the last of our shit out of there back to our tiny city apartment, which I have never been happier to see in my life.
Oh my gosh. So the move is official? Like, you're out of there?
We're out of there. We still have some of our stuff stored there in a couple boxes, but like we are no longer spending a single night there. The kitchen is empty.
Dude, that's huge. Sophie, I'm so happy for you guys.
I know. It like, I have never lived in a village before, and it alternated between like, oh my God, charming to like, get me the hell out of here.
I think that's how it is for everyone.
Yeah, flip back and forth. And by the last time it flipped to get me the hell out of there, I was like, I don't think it's going to flip back to how charming I love it. So I'm really, really glad to be out of there. Thankful that we got to stay there. Not everybody has like a second place that they would be able to stay.
Yeah.
So I'm really grateful to my in-laws for letting us stay there, but also thank fuck that I am out of there.
Yeah. Oh my God. That is huge news.
I know. It was a saga.
Almost a year in the making. That's fantastic.
And what was your best view this week?
I feel like we've switched places because my best view is actually my worst view. And it's one that you had about 8 months ago, which is flooding in my house. The reason that you had to move to your fucking in-laws, whatever. Thank God this wasn't in my actual apartment unit, but in the basement of the building I live in. It flooded. It was less than an inch, but you would be shocked the damage it did and just the stress that put on me. Me and my husband were the only people who are home right now in the house, and so we had to deal with the basement, and it was super stressful. We had to go to Lowe's and buy like fucking these huge squeegees, like the things that you see at the pool.
Oh my God.
We literally had 2 of those, and we were just pushing water around into this draining area, and we had to rescue all these pieces of art, and casually lots of boxes were soaked that were like labeled precious family memories, and I'm like, God fucking damn it, you know, just shit like that. Oh, also my wedding dress was in that pile of stuff. She will get cleaned again. It's okay. It was a very stressful situation and definitely not the ideal way to spend Friday night.
With all due respect, I do feel like your house is built by like the big bad wolf or whatever. Like, it's a little scared of the structural integrity.
Ever since we moved in here, it has just been one thing after another where you go, oh, they didn't think to finish building that wall or finish the floor
they
there.
Didn't think the windows should
be sealed
or whatever.
So, should we jump into things?
Let's. We are going to start this week talking about the one and only Debby and Mido. You know what? Ever since I stopped feeling bad for Debby, I do enjoy watching them more.
Good.
Stop feeling bad for Debby due to the fact that I just felt she is at a certain point making an informed choice, and it's a different choice than I would make, but she does have access to information.
Yes, she is, as one might say, being a dumb bitch of her own volition.
One could say that, yeah. So their section starts with them going to a cooking class. It's like their first date since getting engaged, you know, since Mido's weird trick proposal. And already, like, this is so funny. Mido frames it as they're doing this cooking class because Debby's a really bad cook. But then Debby frames it as I'm always working, and when I come home from work, there's never food, so Mido needs to learn how to cook.
But also, even the way that she phrased that, it wasn't like, you should be the cook because you're not doing anything all day. She was just like, oh, it'd be nice if maybe you could, like, get things started for me before I get home. And I'm like, Debby, God, just, you can ask for something.
I know. I also just love how he's like, oh, I know how to cook. I just don't.
That's worse, Mido, if anything.
So at the cooking class, which is just the 2 of them and then a chef, Mido makes one of his classic jokes about going home to Egypt, which then leads Debby to sharing the beautiful story of the proposal with the chef. And she's like, it's so funny. We were at a wedding venue, and he pretended he was going to go home to Egypt, but then he surprised me by proposing. And the chef's face, he was like, oh, okay.
It's like when someone confesses a crime to you and you're just like, do I need to...
What do I do with this information?
Yeah. Am I like a mandated reporter now? I don't know what I do with this.
I kind of have the feeling this might have been Debby's first time like sharing her proposal story with someone. And I feel like she was kind of workshopping the language and it didn't land. And I could feel her taking notes in her head, be like, how can I make this sound better for the next person?
So Debby, the way that you make it sound better is just full on lying.
That's all you have at this point. Huge thing happens at this point. The 2 of them are having a conversation. Debbie says, I love you. And you know what Mido says? Love you too. First time he said that, at least since coming to the country. Yeah. But also Debbie, the way she framed it before, it sounded like he'd never said it before. Now she's saying it's the first time he said it since arriving. Still noteworthy.
Not great. And also the way he's just like, love you too.
Love you.
Love you. It's not like he grabs her hand and like looks in her eyes and is like, I love you too. Not a hint of romanticism. Next section, incredibly important to note, 1 day to wed. Hey. Scariest time jump we've ever had, actually.
So they're in their apartment and Mido is making a very whimsical little beverage garnished with a strawberry, which I at first thought he was making for her, but actually was for himself.
That wasn't for her?
He drank it. He started drinking it.
Wait, oh my God, you're kidding. Because I was like, oh, that's actually kind of cute.
Yeah, I thought it was for her.
They took the cooking class and so he's showing her that he can cook. But it's for him.
I thought it was for her because I thought he said something along the lines, but then he started drinking it.
Oh my God. Even when there's one moment where I just thought, okay, I could give that to him. I can't. He can't help but be awful.
I know. So we learn, again, 1 day before the wedding, Debbie has yet to pick a dress or buy flowers.
What have we been doing?
We're also reminded of a fact that we did already know, which is that the only people invited are going to be Debbie's 2 children. And we learn that her son, Caden, who we've not yet met, has some reservations about the relationship, which is great. That goes to show he has just like functioning brain cell activity. We learn that kind of the plot of the rest of the episode with Debbie is that she's going to be meeting up with her friends Laura and Astra. She invites Mido and he is so nasty about this. He says no. He's like, they're your friends, not mine. And we also learn that he has seemingly not forgiven these friends after that horrible Halloween fight they had. But it's like, it's crazy because the friends did nothing wrong. They were just defending Debbie when he was yelling at her and then subsequently them. He's just like, they wronged me and I haven't forgiven them, which is just a very interesting spin on things. And then we learn Debbie hasn't seen her friends in weeks and also hasn't even told them that she is proceeding with the wedding, which is, keep in mind, tomorrow.
I just think when you are essentially hiding stuff like this from people that you are, as far as we can tell, very close with, you know that what you're doing is wrong, right?
Yeah. And it's just unfortunate because we were kind of wondering in some of the earlier episodes of like, how are they going to proceed here? Because it gets to a point where she cannot be honoring her friends and also being in this relationship. And it seems like the friendship has taken a hit to sustain the romantic relationship, which makes me really sad.
Me too.
They meet up at the floral shop where Debbie is going to be ordering her flowers for the wedding. And she just shows up and just like flashes her hand with the ring at them. God. They are like, okay, what are we looking at? Like, they like don't.
There is something so funny about Debbie knowing that her friends don't approve, basically, of the relationship or like have like huge worries. It's like she just walks in like flashing the ring. Why would they be happy about that if they're not happy about your relationship?
So Laura and Astra, who for me are really 90 Day Fiancé Friend Hall of Fame, they are good friends. I really, really like them. They, at this point, have an interview with the camera and they basically reveal that they're both shocked about this and pretty much think it's a bad idea.
Yeah.
Which I would expect nothing less. And then in the next section, Debbie and her friends are having a conversation all together. And the friends, I will say, I think they're being as gentle as possible with her. They're kind of trying to understand how this happened. So they're like, is this something you're rushing into because of the visa? Or like, you know, how exactly did you get here? Last time we talked, you were having this horrible fight.
And like, also, sorry, but in that haunted house fight, Debbie literally was like, yeah, we're not going to get married.
I know. So it's a pretty big 180. I mean, I just feel so bad for these friends. Like, they were nicer than I would have been.
I know, they were way nicer than I would have been. Woo!
And so at this point, Astra starts asking about like some of the details of the wedding. And Debbie is like, yeah, and the only guests are going to be my 2 kids. And so Astra's like, oh, we're not invited?
And they're clearly hurt by this. They're like, wait,
clearly
what?
Hurt. Debbie frames it as like not wanting like a whole big hoopla, but it's like, right. There's a difference between a, 100 plus person wedding and in addition to your kids having there, your best friends being there.
Totally agree. Let's even say there's a world where she genuinely just wants it to be family. Why the fuck did you invite them to come with you to pick out the flowers for an event they're not invited to? Like, that's just me. You don't do that. You don't tell someone.
You bring them to your wedding dress fitting and you're like, oh, by the way, you're not going to be able to see me in this. So that's why I'm showing you now.
No, genuinely, that's crazy.
And this is the craziest thing. So there's a really bad vibe because the friends are obviously hurt that they aren't invited. And that also Debbie has kind of buried the lead, I think, with it. I think if she'd opened with it, they would have been probably a bit better. Mm-hmm. But so everyone's kind of feeling hurt and weird. At this moment, Sue, the florist, enters the room and it has this vibe of like, let's pick some flowers for your wedding. And like brings them bubbly and it's just like not the right vibe.
Oh, champagne.
Astra tells the camera that she doesn't see any way to stop this, which, like, I really get it. She's kind of gotten to the point where I think she just understands they're getting married tomorrow. She can't do anything about it.
Sure.
It's a tough place to be as a friend, you know?
I know.
And now that they're all, you know, drinking this bad vibe bubbly together, Astra asks if Mido is treating her well now. And Debby says it's not all sunshine and roses. It's like she can't even lie well. Like, it's like if the last time your friend saw you, your partner was screaming at you, and your friend is like, are you guys still fighting? Don't you want to convince them by being like, it's been amazing since then. Like, that was just a weird blip. Not her saying it's not all sunshine and roses.
It's crazy because, like, right before that, she was like, no, like, we're not fighting anymore. Like, we've been getting along really well. Like, she did say that. And then she's like, oh, but it's not all, like, it's not perfect, basically. But I just have to say, also, the reason that they're quote unquote getting along right now is because, as Debby mentioned in a previous episode not that long ago, they're sticking to like really shallow conversation and really surface level things. And I'm like, yeah. Okay, like, who wouldn't you be able to get along with in that situation?
It's easy to not fight about that. Yeah, I know.
It's such a good example of, like, sometimes people can be, like, not lying to you, but lying to you because they're omitting key information that, like, yeah, we're getting along because we're not talking about anything important.
This also pissed me off a lot. Debby says, you know, it's not all sunshine and roses because it's a real relationship. Like, whatever that means.
No, Sophie, you didn't know if you get along too well with your partner, it's a fake relationship.
Got it. So then Debby says this thing which annoys me so much just because this is a thing I see on Reddit a lot where people will basically be trying to manipulate the response they'll get to sharing the situation. So they'll kind of like frame it in a weird way. Like they'll be like, do you think it's a bad thing if, you know, someone yells at you on the street for no reason or whatever? And then like it turns out that's not the situation at all, but they just like used something they felt people would agree with to like get their point across. She kind of does this because she says, I don't like the pretense of perfect relationship. I think it's bullshit. As like this catch-all thing that's like her friends can't say anything because she's like, you know what? The concept of perfection, it's not even real.
It's like so funny because your friends aren't even talking about the fact that you don't have a perfect relationship. They're talking about the fact that you don't have a good relationship.
Literally. And Astra right away like responds. She says, nobody's got one. Nobody's got a perfect relationship. But we just want to make sure you're being taken care of.
Yeah.
There's just this thing I hate where it's like, instead of Debby just being like, talking about what's happening in her relationship, she has to take a step back and do these like weird generalizations that don't even apply to her situation.
Yeah.
If the relationship were conflict free and their only conflict was like at the cooking class, we couldn't decide who had to devein the shrimp, I'd be like, okay, fine.
Yeah.
You know, but she acts like that's the level of fight they're having. And then if you try to criticize it, it's, well, nobody's perfect. Mm-hmm. It's such a bullshit defense. I hate it.
I completely agree.
Ugh. And it's honestly, it's so like Reddit or TikTok comment coded. If people just like don't want to have a functional conversation, they're like, well, actually, nobody's perfect. Okay.
Okay, then I guess like we just like can't talk about anything.
I guess we can't talk about stuff. I guess we can't talk about relationships because any criticism is just, oh, it's not perfect.
Same when people are like, well, you're not a perfect person either. How dare you cast judgment on others? And I'm like, I do it really easily. That's how I do it. And then you don't have to be a perfect person to have wisdom about some things. Like, my God, I just like, it's such a basic concept. I don't know how people don't get it.
I know. Her friends at this point clearly are not convinced by her argument, so they get a little more direct. Laura reminds Debby she doesn't have to go through with the wedding, and Astra says it's not too late to change her mind.
The concept of your friends saying this one day before your wedding is so tough.
I know. And Debby tells the camera she's upset that her friends aren't more supportive, but it's like, Debby, I fear you had all the facts needed to accurately predict what was going to happen.
It's also just people, God, Debbie's really pissing me off. Some people expect blind support from the people they're close to, and I think that's insane, and I don't think it's healthy.
I agree. But perhaps the most insane thing this whole episode was revealed later, which is we learn Debbie's son has not yet met Mido.
That's so wild. And it's so funny because Debbie's like, yeah, the reason is that he's a full-time student and he works a job, so he has no free time to meet Mido. And I'm like, I think he's probably hanging out with his friends.
Do you know that reminds me of this whole saying, like, no one is as busy as someone who's not interested?
I've never heard that, but that's good.
It's like when you're trying to date and they're like, oh, I'm so busy, you know, this week or that. It's like, no, if they want to, they'll make time. They'll find time for you.
For sure.
I do feel the son, even as a student, even working in a restaurant, probably could have carved out a half hour at some point to meet Mido if this was a priority of his.
Yep.
And Caden, her son, texts Debbie and is like, my job wants me to work. He works at a restaurant. He's like, they want me to work tomorrow evening, which is her wedding. And Debbie's like, oh my God, they need him to work tomorrow. And Laura, who's like not even pro this wedding, but is like, can he not just say no and like tell the restaurant it's his mom's wedding?
I'm sorry, I have a really hard time believing that a restaurant manager wouldn't be able to let that one slide.
Also, like, we know she didn't plan it super far in advance, but clearly, I mean, they have a venue. They clearly booked it a little bit in advance. I feel he could have given them a little bit of notice. The fact that he's even bothering texting her about it instead of just dealing with it behind the scenes goes to show that he is just low-key wanting it out.
No, seriously. Him actually asking his manager, hey, can I work tomorrow night?
Can you put me on, please? He's like not even being paid. He's just there like volunteering.
He's just having a drink there.
He's paying money to be there. He's literally just a customer. And so now we learn that Debbie will not get married if her son can't be there.
Me when I lie, like, I don't believe you at all. How many times has Debbie said, well, I would never put up with this. I would never marry him if blah, blah, blah. And then those things happen and she goes, he's my person.
And Laura very gently asks if maybe Caden is aware of the fact that she wouldn't get married without him there and is maybe on some level trying to, you know, interfere with the wedding by not attending. And Debbie just like starts crying and she's like, I can't deal with this. I can't even deal with that possibility.
Debbie, we know you can't handle anything. Debbie starting to just like sob here and like her friends get up and hug her. It's like an extended crying situation. Her emotional state right now is really freaky to me. She's so fragile in this moment.
Fragile, and specifically in that way where like, not that I'm wishing this upon her, but like I wouldn't be surprised if she like crashed her car on the way home.
On purpose?
No, just like that she's so frazzled. Like she's just not in a good regulated headspace at all.
It feels bordering on unsafe. I agree. Like something about this is really, I think she's like at a level that cannot be healthy. It's very bizarre. And I genuinely, from a place of empathy, worry about her decision-making skills just based on like the emotional state she is in right now, not even looking at the facts. And then looking at the facts on top of it, I go, oh my God, you can't make a decision like this right now. Like this is irresponsible.
There was one specific thing I thought was super, super interesting, which was her tone of voice when she was describing why her son has not yet met Mido. She couldn't even be like, I know it's so weird, or like, I'm so annoyed with him. Like he keeps refusing to meet, but like, you know, he's like, she's like, he's a student and he works in a restaurant. He does not have time. And it's like so insanely defensive that you're like, are you hearing yourself? Like people work in restaurants and go to school and have a partner and like have friends and like, I don't know, cheat on their partner and they have time for that. Like people can do whatever. He's not the only person who's ever been in school and had a side job.
It's laughable. And it's just like also, I feel that Debbie is so easily manipulated. And I don't think that her son necessarily is like trying to manipulate her here. That's not the word I would use to describe it. But like she almost comes like if someone wanted to manipulate her like Mido, it's so easy because she is so already coming up with excuses for people. You know what I mean? She's like, well, no, it couldn't possibly be that my son doesn't want to come to the wedding or doesn't want me to get married. Like that wouldn't happen because XYZ. And it's like, okay, but like, what about ABC? You're not looking at like all the evidence and like coming to a logical conclusion. You're just like, you have this one idea and you're cherry picking the evidence that you're basing it off of. And same with like how on like her social media presence that we talked about last episode, like she's defending Mido, saying ridiculous shit. Like no one would just upend their life and come to a new country just for a career opportunity. It has to be for like because he loves me. And it's like, first of all, that's
factually incorrect.
What you're saying is the opposite of reality. That is like the number one reason why people immigrate.
And I think it's tough because she does that, but then she'll make these statements with this sense of authority where you're just like, okay, so you're not even open to a conversation about it. You know, the fact that she is claiming that she cares about her son so much that she wouldn't get married without him there, and yet he has never met her fiance and has expressed reservations about him and she doesn't care about that. She just has this thing about her where she's just deluding herself in this way that is so frustrating to watch because she's so convinced of her perception of things, even though when you just listen to the words she's saying, you know they're not right. Or they're like contradictory, and she'll just like, if you point out, she's like, no, that's not true. And it's like, okay, then I really don't know what to tell you. I'm not saying she has to like put her foot down with her son and be like, you meet Mido or else. But don't you think she could tell him like, hey, it would really mean a lot to me if you would meet him. Can we please find a time for you to meet him?
Before the day before your wedding.
Instead she's accepting, oh, he works at a restaurant. Famously, you can't change your shift if you work at a restaurant.
Very odd. I mean, obviously Mido doesn't give a fuck about Debby, but I'm just like, okay, let's say we live in delusional land and like we're pretending that he does. If he did, he would want to meet her son. He would like insist. He would set that up.
I know. So I guess next time we see them will probably be their wedding. Although, you know what? Knowing TLC, it'll be like 6.5 minutes to wed.
Oh my God. Like literally.
They will stretch that out.
Last season, didn't they break up one wedding day into like 4 episodes for one couple? It was something insane.
Probably.
Can't wait to see her wedding dress, which by the way, she still hasn't picked out. It's the day before.
Fabulous.
Up next, we have Marissa and Edward. So Edward is taking an exercise class taught by Marissa, and we learn here that she's been a bar instructor for 6 years. And Edward thinks that it's not going to be that hard because according to him, it's a ladies' workout class and therefore won't be that difficult. Love the casual sexism. But I will note that Marissa pushes back and she's like, you know, a lot of women do take this class. That's true. But don't think that they're weak or like we aren't doing real hard workout. You're going to get your ass kicked, basically. And I have taken one bar class. Holy shit. That is the hardest.
That shit's hard.
Ever. Yeah. So, Edward, gird your loins. I will note in this conversation where they're kind of like walking to the studio from the parking lot, they already look so much more affectionate and loved up than we've ever seen.
Their vibe
them.
is so much better. Yeah.
So much better. It was like night and day. It was really nice to see, honestly. And Marissa, in an interview, says that it's been a week since they were fighting in New York. And since then, things have been getting better. And they've gotten a puppy, which is kind of random.
Yes, I know.
BTW. And it reminds me that at the beginning of the season, it had come up with her sons that like she basically had promised that she'd get them a dog if Edward came. I don't love this way of viewing animals as like it's a gift or like it's if this happens, we get a bribe, or basically. Yeah. But whatever. Maybe it's just like she wanted to get a dog anyway. And it's just how she framed it. But I don't know. I don't want to like be on her ass about this, but like I just don't love the way she phrased it. Like in the interview when she's talking about getting the puppy, she says that them getting the dog will improve not only her relationship with Edward, but also the family dynamic.
It's a lot of responsibility for this one creature.
I think you should get an animal for a lot of reasons all combined, but mainly because you want one. I don't think it should be like, it'll fix my relationship with other people. I think that's a little odd and not inherently true. Anyway, it's really not the plot of the episode. Moving on.
This is really not.
It doesn't
you rescued
matter.
like 6 random animals and now you're PETA.
If you rescue a stray pigeon.
Was that a rescue or
yeah, did you buy that animal? Back in the moment, Marissa and Edward have a really long hug when they arrive outside the workout studio, and horrifically for me and Sophie, Marissa points out basically that Edward is getting hard, aroused, and they laugh about it.
She's like, I can feel how excited you are. And I'm like, there's a camera not even a foot from your face. Like,
they like it. This is their pre-workout and their pre-sex play, whatever, foreplay. And, you know, I do think that this is an example of it's not to my taste, but I don't think there's anything wrong with what they're doing. It's just like, I'm like, ew, put it away. I don't want to know about that. So they do the workout class. I didn't take like distinct notes about what happened.
I did think, though, there was something that was important that happened before, which is when they were picking out their weights. And Edward was like, I want 20 to 30 pound weights. And she was like, I'm telling you as the instructor, you don't want that because it's a high rep class. So, you know, you're going to get really tired if you do those. And he's like, no, I want the big weights. And then she said, you know what? I'm not going to micromanage you. You can take whatever weights you feel are appropriate for you. And then, of course, lo and behold, he experienced the consequence of his actions. But I thought even on a small level, it was a good thing to see.
Yes.
That she, instead of making a choice for him to prevent a consequence from happening, she was just like, okay, fine. You can experience the consequence yourself. I thought that was a good step for her.
I totally agree. Yeah, that was a really good sign.
Even though objectively this is a situation where she actually did have authority because she's the instructor.
Yeah, I know. And it is annoying that he wouldn't believe her. But, you know, some people, honestly, it's not even a thing of disrespect. It's like, honestly, they just have to learn it for themselves. Like, they just have to experience it. And the class is, like, super intense. It's a typical bar class, you know, look hard as hell. Edward's, like, shaking. And, like, she has to correct, like, his form. And he's like, it's even harder, you know. But it's really cute. And he high-fives the women, you know, the other attendees at the end of the class. And he's like, wow, you ladies are tough. You know,
He said, I think these ladies are Wonder Womans. They are freaking strong.
That was so cute. Loved it. I just thought this was a cute little section. So they're cleaning up the room together, and Marissa tells him that basically she wants to get back to the Marissa and Edward that they were before when they first fell in love with each other in Punta Cana. And she wants to get back to just enjoying things together and having things not be so serious and tense. And I don't know, just like even in this conversation, their vibe is just so much more lighthearted and romantic, and it really made me happy to see. They obviously have their issues, but it is nice to, with any of these couples, get a sense of why they even like each other in the first place.
You can see what their relationship is. Sometimes you literally are like, I see that you're two people, but I don't understand what binds you. With them, you definitely can see what it is.
And I mean, we can see with a couple why they like each other and still think that they're not good together, of course. But it's like, it's tough when you only see people fighting because you're like, okay, genuinely, what do either of them get out of it? Yeah. What is this? In the next section, Edward and Marissa are going on a date together, out to dinner. And Edward on this date tells Marissa that he loves when she's smiling and laughing, and he just thinks she's so gorgeous when she does that. And Edward tells her that ever since their conversation a couple weeks ago, he's been so happy. And then I thought it was a little bit odd. Marissa says that that's too serious of a conversation right now. She just wants to have a nice dinner where they just enjoy each other's company and it's chill. And I was kind of like, okay. I feel like he was just giving a compliment. I didn't really feel that in that moment. But Edward is like, oh, okay. And then the next clip that we see of him is him again steering the conversation into a serious discussion, this time more concretely, because he's talking about how earlier, like when they're fighting, his decision was nearly made to return back to the Dominican Republic because he didn't think that she would change. And Marissa again is like, hey, can we just stay lighthearted? Like, I don't want to talk about this right now. Let's just enjoy our dinner. And then he goes, okay, but just goes right back into it. And he says, this is the things that I was trying to explain to you. The feelings about be jealous, and I was questioning myself. So I just analyze and I say, you know what? It's your choice. You want to put yourself in that predicament? That's your choice. If one day you decide to do something's wrong to me and cheat on me, it's your loss, not mine. So I feel better. I believe what he's saying is, if you're going to cheat on me, you're going to cheat on me. I don't need to like control if you get to have a phone call with your ex. It's your choice, and it would be you doing something wrong. It has nothing to do with like my decision making. And so I'm feeling better just kind of realizing that I don't have control over that and it's not my decision. I think that's what he meant.
That's how I interpret it as well. And also kind of along the lines of, I don't need to worry about it until it happens. And then if it happens, it's on you anyway.
I'm glad that we agree on that's what he meant.
Yeah.
I do think this is like a super serious thing to say. So I'm like, why are you bringing it up when she asked you not to?
I thought this conversation was an extremely interesting insight into their dynamic. One other thing that happened that I just thought was intriguing at the dinner was some food arrives. It looks like an appetizer of some sort, and it looks like he's just about to take it. And she goes, get a plate, put it on a plate, put your napkin on your lap, in this very like stern tone. And she says like, you know, that's what her mom always taught her. And it kind of was just this thing for me where I was like, again, I'm not making excuses for any behavior. I just think it's interesting to understand like where the behavior comes from.
Yeah.
And this is such a reach that I don't want to be like accusing anyone of anything, but it really made me wonder, like, is that just how Marissa was raised? Like with this tone of like, don't do that, do this, don't do that. Like, and that's just her understanding of like how to give an instruction.
Yeah.
Because she didn't even seem to think it was a harsh tone that she was using. And yeah. he was just kind of like, oh, okay, and put his napkin on his lap. And also kind of made a comment about, oh, yeah, your mom is like that. But I don't know, like, I thought it was just very interesting. I get the desire to have the people around you have good manners. I really, really do. But there's something about enforcing, like, putting a napkin on your lap, which is so funny to me because I feel like literally who cares?
I agree.
Like, honestly, it's one thing if you're having multiple courses and the person is, like, taking their main fork. And you could just be like, oh, by the way, like, that's a salad fork. Mm-hmm. You know, use like, I feel like a little tip in a formal setting can be fine. But I was like, you're at a random restaurant that doesn't look that nice. Like, it was a paper napkin. You know what I mean? So I just thought that was interesting. Like, it when she said that, and again, I'm not excusing her for being bossy towards him in this moment, but it almost felt like someone else was speaking through her. I don't know, like...
Or at the very least, that this way that she gives feedback might not be specific to her relationship with Edward.
Yeah, that is just kind of ingrained in her in some way. I don't know. It's just interesting, like, to her to be like, yeah, my mom would say this. I was like, interesting. Maybe that's how her mom is too, you know?
I wouldn't be surprised. Her mom was really intense. To be clear, after Edward kind of, you know, says that line where he's basically like, if you want to cheat on me, you can. And like, I'm fine. Like, it would be your fault, blah, 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 basically. Marissa does get activated by that. And she's like, this was supposed to be a happy night, and I don't get why we're having this conversation right now, which I have to agree. And you should have this conversation, but like not right now, time and place. And Marissa, in an interview, says that she has had some pretty rough experiences with relationships. So if she gets even a hint of anger or aggression, she gets really upset and triggered. So that is important context for like, perhaps for another person, this wouldn't have led to like such an extreme reaction from Marissa. So just saying, like, that's part of why I think she got so upset.
I felt, for both of them, I felt Marissa was responding more strongly than probably the average person would, even if a version of what she was feeling might come out for someone else, where they'd be like, ugh, I really don't want to talk about this right now, where she was really upset about it. So it definitely felt like she had her own thing she was responding to, so I was glad she mentioned the trigger. But then also with Edward, I was like, Edward, you don't have to do anything like malicious, I don't think, but like, can you read the room?
Yeah. I am genuinely curious, was he trying to kind of hurt her feelings, or did he actually think that this was going to be a productive conversation? I don't know.
And again, I don't know if it was just a clunky thing that came out of his mouth wrong, but if he just said, I realize like your anxiety has nothing to do with me, and like I don't have to take on worry just because you're worried, and like I decided if anything happens down the road, it's just, like I want to take the risk on being in this relationship and not worry about what could happen, or something like a little more generic. I feel like fine, but like don't bring up hypothetical cheating.
I know.
That was weird. That was a bit combative.
I felt he was being a little bit combative. And Marissa calls this a stupid conversation. Don't love that, like, I don't know if you can call that name calling, but I don't know. I don't like that type of word being used to discuss this. But Edward responds in a slightly raised voice. And then she very seriously tells him to lower his voice. I saw a lot of people online like dragging her for this, and I don't want to sound like a Marissa Glazer, but I'm like, I don't know. I kind of get it.
You're at a restaurant.
It's one thing to have an argument in public, which already I find very embarrassing. I'd way rather have the conflict anywhere more private, even in a taxi. I do think there's something really embarrassing about that. Sorry. I don't know. I agree with her.
Also, Marissa is clearly someone who is hyper aware of manners, and it is not polite to be having a loud conversation / fight in a restaurant. So I don't know. This is one where I also heard people, posting this picture of her with this kind of grimace on her face as she was like, lower your voice. And everyone's like, oh my God, she's so controlling, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, I didn't love this conversation, obviously, but like that specific thing, I was like, I don't know. I can imagine a lot of people having that reaction when they're in a public place, being like, if we're going to fight, can we fight quietly?
Yeah, seriously.
I don't know.
Also, she expressed to him so many times, like, hey, I don't want to have this conversation right now. Like, I don't want to have this fight here now. Can we just enjoy it? And then he's like raising his voice a bit. And I think probably on accident. I don't think he was trying to be scary or intimidating or anything, but that just is embarrassing. Like, she already expressed that she doesn't want this to be happening. And then you're like almost causing a scene. I do feel like, I don't know. I get it.
This was weird. It was a really weird conversation, honestly, on both sides.
Yes.
At least from what we saw.
Odd. I don't really get what happened here. I don't get why Edward felt the need to have the conversation right now. I wish that she would be less controlling. However, she is on her way. Like, I see her putting in effort. I see a huge improvement in what seems to be maybe a week since that last conflict. I do want to give her credit for that. I think that these things take time. Clearly, this is a behavior she's been doing for a long time, if not her whole life. And I think she's making good progress. I struggle with just fundamentally coming back to, like, I just don't think that these two are compatible long term. I think that's where a lot of the tension comes from, is it's like you can only fix so much when fundamentally your personalities and your lifestyles just don't go together that well. Even the best therapists in the world can only do so much in that scenario.
Yeah, but this was really an interesting insight in like both of their roles in this dynamic. Next up, we have Thomas and Paula, and it is 8 days to wed.
We're really getting down to the wire with a lot of these couples.
I know. And Paula is cleaning up because her family is arriving. If you'll recall, many of her family members are staying with them. Interestingly, last episode, they said 8 family members would be staying. It was actually only 6 people staying with them, plus the 2 of them. 8 people is still a lot in that apartment.
I see. 8 total.
I'm just saying, 8 total. Because last episode we were talking about 10 total, so that is different.
Yes.
But Paula's cleaning up, and she's kind of like, redoing the balcony or whatever, and she got this like outdoor rug for the balcony that she puts down, and she is like, I just got this rug, and he's like, on my credit card, and she's like, yeah, and she says it was $70, and he goes, 17 or 70, and she's like, 70, and he's like, oh, and he acts like that's so much for a rug, and it's like, I'm sorry, it's actually not a crazy price.
$70 for a good quality rug is so cheap. I hate to break it to you, Thomas. It's so cheap.
$17 is like child labor. I don't know, like it's a weird hill to die on. His relationship to money is just very interesting to me because I don't think he's poor. So it's like kind of funny that the like hills he chooses to die on.
Funny because I remember in one of the early episodes when Paula was like, wait, okay, is the reason that we can't add furniture because of money? Is it like you don't have the money for that right now? And he was like, no, it has nothing to do with money. Looking back, I'm actually doubting that. I wonder if he honestly doesn't have as much as we think, or if he's just being cheap. I don't know.
Or just like a weird psychological thing around money. I don't know. But We also learn that they will be using all of their camping gear that they use for winter festivals to host the various family members in their home.
Oh my God.
And Thomas brings out this, like, I don't know how to describe it. It's like a camping chair, but it's long, and you can lay on it. And so he's like laying flat on it like a corpse because it's very narrow. And he's like, this is a potential bed. And it looks so uncomfortable.
Thomas, just let them sleep on the ground at that point.
But we do learn that Paula has at this point stopped using deodorant and perfume, which is interesting.
Sorry, she's going to get so much more funky than if you just let her put on the fucking deodorant. Let the woman wear deodorant.
And they are starting to have a very interesting fight, which is like she's very upset about the fact that, for example, they don't have a proper dining situation. So like Thomas has a desk with 3 monitors on it, and he's like moving the monitors so that they can put a tablecloth down and use it as dining space. And she's like, well, why don't we get a proper dining table anyway? And he's like, well, we don't really have room for 3 tables in here. And it's like this fight where I kind of agree with neither of them, because I do think that Thomas is really weird about the hills he'll die on and the corners he wants to cut in terms of what they can and can't have. Mm-hmm. But I also think Paula is being a bit unrealistic for how they're going to host 8 people in this space.
I agree.
Like, when you have 8 people in a 1-bedroom apartment, you're not going to be having 8 matching dining chairs.
Yeah.
And like when he like rolls out a desk chair, she's like horrified. And I'm like, no, I think that's pretty reasonable in a small space. Like, yeah, maybe it'd be nice if they had 4 dining chairs to begin with.
Sure.
But I feel like they were always going to then have to wheel in another chair from, like, I don't know. I found it odd here. I didn't agree with either of them entirely.
Yeah.
Again, it's just this thing where it's like, I feel their incompatibility is just exposed because they're fighting about every little thing. Paula makes this comment to the camera about that she doesn't know what to do with this lack of control that she feels, and that gasoline is burning inside of her, and that like she's gonna try to hide her feelings from her family, but she doesn't know if she can, and if it's not working, she'll go back to Brazil with them.
Is it like contractually obligated that every episode one of the people in the couple threatens to go back to their home country? It's so weird.
I don't know, but it is interesting. And like, again, yeah, I agree. They're not seeing eye to eye on things, but like even just a fundamental of like, are you someone who cares about hosting or not? Like these are things that I feel like they could figure out or should have figured out. And like, I find it odd that they're still having fights about like very basic things. I don't know.
Agreed.
And then again, we get back to this thing of Paula wanting more from Thomas. I think specifically in this context, furnishing wise. And he says he can't give her more, and he's giving everything he possibly can. And I'm like, what does this mean? Financially?
No.
Emotionally?
Odd.
Next section is 1 day later, 7 days to wed. This is the day the family's coming. We get this shot of Thomas sitting on the ground at his camping table, which now has a tablecloth on it, eating what seems to be a potato with like a Swiss Army knife.
He freaks me out real bad. He just does. I don't know. The way that he goes through the world.
He really, I think, wants to be like a survivalist, but it's like you live in a new build apartment building in Long Beach. Like, whatever.
I feel like his dream reality TV show to be on, if it wasn't 90 Day Fiancé, would be Naked and Afraid.
He definitely wants to be like, or Survivor or something.
And he'd be on fucking Naked and Afraid or Survivor, and he'd be like bitching literally within an hour of having gotten there and had his phone taken away.
He'd get on Survivor and get voted off first because everyone just doesn't like him. Yeah. He like wouldn't get a chance to drink his own pee or anything because he'd just be like, God damn.
Everyone's like, you know, honestly, he is contributing to the group, but he's so fucking annoying. We would rather die than have him be here.
So at this point, Paula has another interview with the camera where she again says she just does not want to fight in front of her family. And the family arrives. Thomas greets all of them in Portuguese, which I thought was very cute.
That's the one credit I'll give to Thomas is, according to Mia Gringo, it sounds like he speaks really good Portuguese and like at least is confident speaking in it.
It seems like at the very least, when they're having a group conversation in Portuguese, he's able to jump in and contribute. Mm-hmm. Which I think is like actually pretty difficult to do. So I give him credit for that. So the family comes in and Thomas gives a presentation to them about the rules, a little speech in Portuguese. First rule, no shoes, fine. And then he starts talking about how he's sensitive to smells, and so no one can use any sort of perfume, including scented soap.
That's so crazy.
That's a lot because honestly, even if you use a scented soap, the smell doesn't like linger that much. I mean, I understand perfume itself is highly concentrated, but like, I really think if you use soap, even with some perfume, the main smell at the end is just like fresh, not like that specific smell. I don't know.
I feel like you only smell it when you're in the like hot, humid shower air. I feel like as soon as that air dissipates, it's gone.
I know. And when he says soap, Paula's like, my family can't use soap. And he's like, well, if you go to the store, just like don't buy one that's perfumed. And the mom's like, I have a baby soap. Does that work? And he's like, yeah, baby products are fine.
I can't imagine policing my in-laws like toiletries.
I know. And then Paula's parents say in an interview that this is so complicated and that they don't understand this because when they have guests, they don't have rules for their guests. They just want to make their guests happy.
Yeah.
And in general, the family is not too impressed with the state of the apartment. They have a lot of ideas for redecorating. Thomas reveals that he doesn't have a TV and he's like, and I'm proud of it. This is really distressing to the in-laws. And here we also continue to see a lot of like the Office style zooms in on different people's facial expressions. And one thing that several family members say, which I think is a very fair observation, is that these two are very different and they worry about the marriage. Okay.
Yeah.
And this is just interesting. Like, there is a point in which Thomas starts to get very defensive. Mm-hmm. For example, they're looking for a chair for Paula's mom, and he makes some comment about like, oh, I didn't know you wanted a chair, so he goes and like gets her a chair. And Paula's like, well, of course she wanted a chair. She just, was on a 14-hour flight. And then he's like, how am I supposed to know if she wants to sit? Like, it was this like very kind of reactive thing where you're kind of like, okay.
This is tough because I'm like, well, how do you lack social skills to the point where like you can't imagine that even if someone wasn't on a flight, that like a especially middle-aged person wouldn't just want to sit down, like having like being in a space. I don't know, like it's very normal. It's very expected. Also, I did think it was funny though of Paula to kind of be so combative in this moment because she did not have to say that comment. She could have just been like, okay, like just said nothing or thanks for getting a chair or whatever. Yeah. It was funny because she had just been like, I don't want to fight in front of my family, but sorry, she's picking a fight here.
Repeatedly she is. And it's funny, like Thomas also really can't read the room because like he brags to the family, or like I think he thinks it's bragging about the fact that he didn't even spend $1. He spent $0 preparing for their visit. And like, sorry, I actually don't think that's nice.
That's so insulting.
It's one thing if it's really amazing and luxurious and he's like, yeah, believe it or not, like I've got a really good deal on something and I didn't have to pay for it. Okay, fine. But he's like bragging about not spending money while they're sitting on like miscellaneous camping chairs.
That's the funniest part is it's like, yeah, we can tell. It's super uncomfortable here.
It's giving $0 spent. And the brother just goes, he's crazy, in Portuguese out loud, which Thomas speaks, which I love.
That wasn't in an interview?
It was at the table. So also we see that Thomas has decided that his little floor table is going to be the kids' table. And we see him and the two children sitting at the floor table. Like, I don't know why he's also at the kids' table.
I mean, he is a baby. He's acting like one, so I guess it's fitting.
But this whole situation looked chaotic and overstimulating as fuck.
I know. I was getting tired just thinking about it.
And in the next section, we see the family are like, they're cooking. They're all in the kitchen, but also they're like going through the fridge and freezer. And they find a steak in the freezer, to be fair, which expired 2 years ago.
Ew, Thomas. Wait, didn't Thomas just buy this apartment? That's why it's empty? Sorry, has he been living like this for 2 years? Or is it that he brought frozen food to the new house?
Thomas, can you explain, please?
Wait, sorry. Either of these options is crazy. The concept of bringing frozen food in general to your new house, I'm sorry, you had to throw it away. There's no way it's going to not have de-thawed.
I don't think he just moved in, though. I don't think he just moved in.
No, that was the whole thing. Because Paula was like, she was like, oh my God, you haven't really put furniture in since you moved in. And then also...
Yeah, since you moved in. We don't know when that was.
No. I feel very confident that at the beginning there was a huge implication that he recently bought and moved into this house. I like feel quite confident in this.
Okay. Then I really don't know what is happening with the steak.
God, knowing Thomas, I feel like he probably let it like thaw and then put it back in the freezer also. I don't know. I'm getting really stressed out by this. Either option isn't good is what I'm trying to say.
I would love to be informed about what's happening here.
I'm gonna DM Thomas. I like need an answer about this.
So then they start smelling the steak.
Sorry, it was open? Like it wasn't vacuum sealed?
No, it was like from the butcher section at Whole Foods. It was wrapped in paper.
He froze it like that? Wouldn't be me.
I'm just double checking how long steak is good in the freezer. Okay,
surely not 2 years.
Okay, steak is safe to eat indefinitely at 0 degrees Fahrenheit.
Wait, 0 degrees Fahrenheit?
No, that's deep frozen. So deep frozen, it can last for a while. But for a home freezer, it should be used within 6 to 12 months. If vacuum sealed, up to 2 years. But it wasn't vacuum sealed.
That wasn't vacuum sealed, yeah.
Also, it's like, okay, that's neither here nor there, but his whole argument is like, oh, well, I had to go somewhere and I froze. It's like, but then why didn't you use it since then?
Or at the very least, you're not cleaning out your freezer.
What I've done before is buy meat that has an expiration date, and then something comes up that I wasn't, and I was like, oh, I couldn't cook that day, so I'll freeze it before it expires, but then I'll use it within a week or two.
Well, yeah, I do fear that's just part of being an adult.
I know, so just I can't imagine pushing it. Like, it's one thing if they said this expired last week, and he goes, well, but 2 years.
Wait, also, sorry, we need to move on from the steak, but I have another question. Was his reaction like, oh my God, I can't believe I didn't throw that out? Or was it like, yeah, I was still planning to use it?
Yeah, exactly.
He knew about the steak?
The brother says there's a lot of expired food in the fridge. And then there's this fight because Thomas is like, so basically Paula gets upset because she's like, I've accepted that you're not vegan, but at the very least, if you buy meat, can you eat it? Because I don't want you buying meat and then throwing it out without using it.
Right, like that's even more wasteful.
Right, because then it's truly the animal died in vain, right? He says it's not his fault. He's like, what am I supposed to do? Work made me go to Las Vegas, so I had to freeze it. But I'm like, well, then when you came back from Las Vegas?
Were you in Las Vegas for 2 years? Yeah. What business trip was this?
I'm so confused with this. I can't get over it.
I'm actually being really struck this episode by how similar Thomas and Catie truly are. They have this weird thing about furniture, and they have this weird thing about never taking personal accountability. It's really odd.
Interesting. And then keep in mind, though, while they're having this whole fight, the whole family is there, right? They're all like, the kids are playing, 5 people are cooking in the kitchen. I mean, a lot is happening.
God. I think it's interesting that Paula is picking fights in front of her parents because, as we mentioned, she had literally just been like, I don't want to fight in front of my family. But I wonder if now that they're here, and I don't think that this is healthy, I don't think this is what you should be doing, but I wonder if on some level she's feeling like, oh, I finally have backup and I'm going to like use this to influence Thomas in a more effective way. I don't think that's how it works. I don't think that's healthy, but I wonder if she almost feels like, okay, I have people here validating me and maybe this will be what it takes to make Thomas change his mind.
It could be. My impression was more the same outcome, but kind of the opposite order of things. I was more thinking like she maybe didn't realize how much her family was going to pick up on themselves. And once they brought stuff up, she felt like she had to, like, you have expired food in the fridge. She has to make sure they know that's not my expired food. I would never have expired food in the fridge.
I could see that too.
And then it kind of like gets pushed onto Thomas where she's like not going to defend him for something that she doesn't agree with. And then that's kind of, I don't know. In any case, her goal of not fighting was not successful. So at this point, they all go on a little outing together, and Paula's brother and Paula kind of hang back from the group a little bit. And importantly, I'll add before we get to this, Paula in an interview with the camera admits that 8 people in the apartment was too much.
Glad she can admit it.
So they're on this little outing, and Paula and her brother kind of hang back, and the brother asks Paula if she's happy. And Paula kind of starts talking about how she always had this dream of living in the U.S. and, you know, it's so amazing that the universe opened this pathway for her via Tom. And he's like, okay, but like, is Thomas a good enough reason to come here?
Right. It's funny that her answer is about being in the country, not like being with her partner.
And it's kind of funny because she was saying something which I agree with on principle, which is like, you know, Thomas isn't the center of a universe. And like, for that reason, it's okay. And I think the brother is like, right. But if you're moving somewhere for him, the reason you're not centering him shouldn't be that it's a problem with him. You know what I mean? Like, it should be like, it should still be a good relationship, but you have other stuff going on in your life. And, you know, the brother notices that they've not been getting along, and Paula says it's just bickering because they're still getting to know each other.
How long have these two been dating?
Years. Like a
long time. I feel like 4 is the number I want to say.
And they were friends before that.
Right. Given this couple, that's a crazy thing to say.
I mean, I will say, I'm curious what your experience was. There's kind of this narrative of like, well, you don't really get to know people until you live with them. I've only ever lived romantically with my now husband. I mean, otherwise I'd like lived with friends. But when we moved in together, I think I already had like a very clear sense of who he was as a person and how he went through the world. And as a result, there were no shocks or surprises with living together.
I am going to be honest. I don't have a good perspective on this because the only person I've lived with is my now husband. And we had to move in together very early. It was like month 4 or 5 of dating, just due to circumstances and COVID. And we moved continents to be together. So Honestly, like the amount of time that I knew him before we moved in together wasn't so long that I guess like what I'm trying to say is like I don't know if I have the best perspective, but given my personal experience, yeah, I wasn't shocked by anything when we moved in together. If anything, it was just like more fun because we could hang out longer. And also my husband is a really good roommate and he taught me a lot about like how to actually take care of myself as an adult human being. And so like living with him is only good. You should ask his opinion because low-key I feel like he'd be like, it was okay at first, you know?
I don't know why I feel intrigued by this concept of like
you don't know
getting
them
to know
until
someone on a deeper level that you like could not previously access even remotely. Like obviously it's more intense to be together all the time than occasionally for a week, obviously. But I just find it interesting this like repeated concept of like you're only getting to know each other now. I find that weird.
I definitely disagree with that idea on principle. I'm kind of inclined to believe that if you're truly, truly shocked by getting to know something about someone's personality, not just like, oh, they like to do yoga in the morning or whatever.
Yeah.
But like genuinely surprised by things that you learn after moving together is like, I don't know, I just kind of have to believe that you guys were hiding stuff from each other.
It's like with Thomas. Did she not realize he was this like weird frugal freak? Did that not come up in other ways?
Surely it would.
Maybe like when they travel, he like books like really weird bad hotels to save money, or like I would be surprised if he's always shown up as a go with the flow, casual, chill guy who loves to spend money on things. Like,
yeah.
So I'm surprised how she's surprised now.
I agree.
I would like to understand. I'm not even trying to be judgmental. I just truly don't understand because I feel like when my husband moved in with me, it was like exactly what I could have imagined it would be through the information I'd already gathered through our relationship.
Yes.
Also at this point, the brother reminds her, which is such a theme this season, which is interesting, that Paula has such a good life in Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I think that's fair. She's like a successful businesswoman in Brazil. She clearly has a whole community, an apartment that was fully furnished. I mean... It's a fair point. And Paula just again starts talking about like the pressure she's feeling and like all these keywords where I'm just like, I understand your thesis is it's good and you want to stay, but like the actual evidence and words you're using like aren't convincing me of that.
I know, it's odd.
Anyway, that was that, but I loved the family. I loved the chaos in this apartment, and I'm curious to hear more of like this is by the way a big enough group. They could really do a good like intervention in a circle if they wanted to.
Oh my God. I hope we see that. We now have Catie and Josh, who in this episode are biking together to some park in Portland to hang out and chat. And Catie wants to talk to him about the open relationship of it all, which is amazing. This is literally the day after her bachelorette party. For once, she's not hungover because she actually managed to keep her promise to Josh for what seems like the first time ever in their relationship.
Yes.
And she didn't get too drunk. She didn't kiss anyone else, and she didn't throw up. So I think she deserves an award. How incredible. Who could believe that she could do this? They get to the park. They're on a picnic blanket. So when Catie is telling him, you know, that she kept her promise and didn't break any of the rules last night at her bachelorette party, Josh, in a kind of lighthearted, soft tone, tells her that basically he was really worried that that wasn't going to be the case and that he was going to have to hear her apologize for acting badly and it was going to be this whole thing. And he really doesn't say this in a serious way, but it is so serious and sad. Why does he have fucking PTSD every time she goes out of the house to hang out with her friends?
No. And this is what kills me too is like having that feeling is a reason enough to not be in the relationship. Even if she's not making out every time, the fact that every time she goes out you have to be sitting at home sick with worry is a reason to break up. Like, whatever.
It's depressing. You shouldn't be living like that, to be honest. Josh, to the camera alone in a little interview that is, you know, at this park, it's in the moment. He tells the camera that this rebuilt his trust with Catie. I'm like, wait, what? Her acting correctly, meeting the literal bare minimum that you should
Once.
One single time has rebuilt your trust completely. I mean, obviously it's not true, right? Like, obviously that's not true, but I'm just like, why are you saying that? Like, it's so odd. Like, the quickness with which he will completely forgive her and overlook years of bad behavior for one positive interaction really does explain, even if it's disappointing and confusing, why he's still in this relationship. Because I'm like, oh, yeah. She does one good thing, meaning doing the literal bare minimum, and you go, oh my God, okay, you are a good person, thank God. Oh, okay, you know? Anyway,
yeah,
it's kind of discussed now between the two of them that last night Josh drank a lot while home alone. And it makes sense because he looks exhausted and like really rough. So I thought he was just exhausted because of being with Catie must be exhausting, but it actually turns out that he's hungover.
Also, he got blackout drunk, not just drunk, blackout drunk, which I thought was interesting because one of his rules for Catie that night was don't get blackout drunk.
Fascinating.
Don't make out or black out. Those are the 2 rules. Or yak.
Yak. Interesting. That is funny. And he says that the reason that he got so drunk is because he was watching the news and it was about all the fucked up immigration shit going on in the US at that time, which is still going on. And he talks about how it's really stressful because even though they're going through the correct legal process and everything is above board, still he's hearing about people with green cards being detained and deported. And it's just a whole bunch of bullshit. And of course, he's then getting anxious about his own predicament. And he says it's just a really hard time to be an immigrant in the US right now. And I cannot agree more, Josh. And like, this is an anxiety spiral I go through very frequently. So,
and I liked the show addressing this.
Same.
On a show about immigration, I feel like it's crazy to not mention this. So
I'm honestly surprised with how infrequently it's been coming up in general with these couples. Yeah. And he says basically that he wants to be somewhere he feels more welcome. And then he kind of is like, oh, sorry, I didn't mean that I don't want to be here with you. It's just, it sucks not feeling like I'm wanted in this country.
Yeah, fair.
And to her credit, Catie asked something actually really nice and helpful here. She says, how can I make you feel more welcome here? Which is nice. But then I was kind of thinking about it. I'm like, oh, well, actually, Josh has only been telling you how to make him feel more welcome and respected and loved. So you know the answer.
I do think making him feel more welcome in the relationship context would help him overall, even if she can't alleviate the like immigration level challenges.
Yes. But yeah, I thought that was a nice thing to ask in the moment, to her credit.
She was in general in this conversation, she was more sympathetic towards him than I think we've ever seen her.
Yes.
She wasn't over the top sympathetic, but she was like, I'm acknowledging he's going through something that's tough for him. I thought that was something I'll give her credit for.
For sure. And she wasn't taking it too personally or like getting frustrated with him for feeling stressed. She was just like, yeah, sorry. And Josh kind of tells her that he knows that she is his person because he can just be vulnerable with her. It's just a really small interaction, but she goes, really? And he says, yeah. I was just like, I thought that was so odd. I'm like, sorry, don't you guys know each other well? Why are they talking like this is like one of their first conversations ever?
That is so weird.
That's like a conversation you'd have like month 2 of dating. And it's like, you know, I don't know. I feel like I can talk to you about anything. I feel like I can be vulnerable with you. And like the other would be like, oh my God, really? I'm so honored, you know, like, oh, because we don't know each other. Like we're getting to know each other. It's crazy years in to be like, wait, oh my God, you feel like you can be vulnerable with you? Yeah, I'm just like, what? I just think it's so interesting that these people are always talking about how they're each other's person and they have such an amazing relationship. And yet when they actually have any conversation of even a little bit of substance, it's as if it's the first time happening. Like they don't have true intimate closeness in a way that I find really interesting.
Yeah, I agree. That is interesting.
So moving on in the conversation, Catie transitions to fucking talking about her wanting to have an open relationship. And I'm like, Catie, God fucking damn it. Talk about needing to read the room or like figure out, okay, maybe I'm going to delay this conversation because...
Talk about how we can make him feel more welcome.
By the way, I am betraying you on like such a fundamental level with what I expect from this relationship. She transitions this talk about being vulnerable in such a funny way. She says that she really wants to be able to talk to him about everything and bring up topics without you getting upset is how she phrases it. And I'm like,
yeah.
Sorry, that's also not how it works. You don't just get to be vulnerable with someone and that means that they never get upset with what you say. That's not the rules. And she says, so of course she brings this up in like the most fucking annoying way she possibly could, which is Catie basically asks if Josh ever worries about not being able to have certain experiences within the confines of their relationship. And he's like, sorry, I don't really get what you mean. And she says, quote, my whole life party just got me thinking, oh no, I'm saying goodbye to all these fun, crazy parties.
That was the funniest shit she could have said, by the way. Her death to the whole life party made her realize she doesn't want to say goodbye to
the whole life
crazy parties.
I feel that if on your bachelorette party, you basically realize you are not excited about getting married, I don't know, maybe that's a sign. And then basically, yeah, she talks about like, maybe we should open this up. And she says that she doesn't want to make out with anyone else right now, but what if she does in 5 years? Already, this is stupid to pre-worry about something that's not happening. Second, having the inclination like, oh, I kind of want to kiss that person. That doesn't mean that you have permission to or should be able to, by the way. Like you can have desires that you go, okay, but it's not worth the fallout that would have, etc. Third, this is a fucking lie. We've seen you try to make out with people not even like at maximum 2 months ago. So this is a fucking lie that you don't want to make out with anyone else right now, and it might happen in 5 years.
But it's also the very interesting thing, which I have actually only seen men do up to this point. So good job, Catie, women in male fields, which is this thing of wanting to use an open relationship as a means to cheat without any accountability, without your partner even being able to be mad at all, because you can say, oh, we were open. I told you this was going to happen.
Gaslighting final boss.
It is, and it's just so odd, because what she's basically saying is, I have this urge, I want to kiss people, and I don't want you to be allowed to be upset about it. And that's where I'm just like, I don't think that's realistic. I don't know. Like, I think you could do whatever you want in life, but you have to handle the consequences. And like, this is something actually we have talked about a lot. I am obsessed with this concept, is like consequence versus punishment. And like the consequence being just like the natural thing that follows an event, and a punishment being like some kind of like contrived thing that is then added to make you feel worse. And like, if you cheat on your partner, a natural consequence might be that they break up with you. And I feel somehow she's doing this a little where she's kind of framing it as like Josh would be unfairly punishing her if he then responded poorly to her. Like, I feel like she's kind of trying to do this thing to avoid consequences. But in life, that's simply not how it works.
Yeah.
And I just like, I don't understand her brain working in this way.
That sums it up. That's how I feel every episode. I don't understand her brain working in this way. I agree with everything you said. You said it very well. So Josh says that he didn't sign up to be in an open relationship, and he doesn't need to think about what ifs and what the future may hold. Like, he doesn't care. He wants to be in a monogamous relationship. By the way, they mentioned that they're getting married in 4 weeks.
Yeah. But it is cool to hear him in very explicit words say they are not in an open relationship, and that the expectation is when they get married, it's a monogamous marriage. Because I don't think we had real ambiguity last time, but Catie being like, well, I don't know. We haven't really talked about what it means. It's like, okay, now we know.
Yeah, we can point to this evidence when she tries to pull some bullshit. So Catie in an interview says that she wishes that Josh were more open-minded, and says he's the perfect person for her, but she's worried they'll fall into old patterns, especially with sex, meaning it will be boring and she'll feel unfulfilled. And I'm like, so many concepts just hit us in this one interview.
One thing is, she also at this point talked about him being open-minded, and I find that so annoying, that just saying you don't want something is being closed-minded. Okay, that already I find annoying, manipulative language.
Yes.
Okay, it is clear by Catie's admission that these two are not having good sex. I don't know why we're involved. Fix it or move on. It's a deal breaker or it's not.
Yeah,
but it's like, okay, so like go to a sex therapist. I don't know. Like, why are we involved? Why do, like, the worst outcome is to continue to have bad sex, not do anything about it, make it a weird problem, make everyone feel bad about it. Like,
and then eventually cheat because you're not sexually fulfilled.
And then you're like, it's not my fault you were bad at sex.
I don't know what the sexual problem is. I don't want to know. I don't want to be a part of it. But it's like, dude, if it's just a matter of like everyone's trying their best to make it fun for everyone, but I don't know, they just don't have that chemistry, or like Catie wants to physically like do certain things that Josh is not comfortable with. It's like, I don't know. I just think that there's incompatibility here, like at the end of the day.
I just also think about the fact that, like, to quote Debbie, no relationship is perfect, but like nobody is perfect. Nobody is going to be able to offer every single positive attribute that a person can have. Mm-hmm. And you just have to figure out in your relationship, like, what you're comfortable with your partner not excelling at. Mm-hmm. Because no one person on earth can excel at everything. Yeah. And like, if for some people, they might be like, you know what, sex is not that important to me. This is such an amazing person. We have such a deep connection. Not a big deal. Great. I'm not saying sex has to be the deal breaker for you. Mm-hmm. But if in your relationship, sex is a primary thing, then you aren't compatible with this person. I don't know.
That
like,
would be a deal breaker for you.
But there's almost, I don't know how to describe it. There's almost this sense of entitlement in the way she describes it, where it's like, he needs to be all the things he is, plus the things that he's not. And it's like, that's just not how it works. Like, if he's not enough for you, then find a different person. But like, I don't know. I know it's easier than done, but like, I just think it's weird to be like, this is my partner, but they fail in these ways. So I'm going to keep them strung along and expect them to improve in these ways. I just feel like it's not realistic. And then her solution is cheat on him. Like, I don't really get this.
I agree. And then back in the moment, Catie says to Josh, but is the answer a firm no right now? I want you to be I'm hoping you're open-minded in the future. Like the way that she catches herself there, it's funny. I don't know. I thought that was a little bit telling. I want you to be open is clearly what she was going to say, but I wonder if she knows that like that's kind of fucked up to like basically tell him like you have to be open for me. And so she's like, I'm hoping you'll be open-minded in the future.
It's just, again, it's like, and I hate to like get so aggressive with Catie, but it's just these things where it's like, she cannot respect people's boundaries. She does not understand no means no. And I'm not saying in this moment she's like, you know, assaulting him, but like there is something really freaky for me about someone saying these are my sexual boundaries and you basically saying, well, I don't accept them.
Yeah. And her not saying, okay, then I'm going to remove myself from this relationship. Which is
totally fine.
She's like, well, okay, I want you to change your mind. whether or not you're happy with that decision. That's fucked up.
I just wish we could really acknowledge the fact that like he's setting a sexual boundary and she's not honoring it. I think that's so fucked up.
I agree. And Catie continues and says, I don't want to make you upset. It's more just like, what if I need and I miss the chase so much and I really want to make out with people? Then what do we do? And I'm like, no, Catie, it's actually been so explicitly communicated that, yeah, all you care about is you.
No one thought you were doing this on Josh's behalf.
Yeah, she's like, no, I get that you're upset, but actually it's like what I want matters.
I get that you don't want to kiss other people, but what if I want to kiss other people?
I'm really struggling to understand her argument from a perspective that is anything other than extremely self-centered. And I think that Catie lacks the ability to empathize, or at least she doesn't access that part of her psyche frequently, even in her most intimate relationship. And I think that is a core issue here.
I agree.
And Josh says that if she genuinely needs to not be monogamous, then he's at a loss for words, and it feels like she's just given him the finger. I love that saying. We've got to use that in the US.
I will say there's one thing that he said actually earlier that I wanted to mention, which is he said he's blindsided by this. And I was like, I don't know, Josh.
We really have these moments where I'm like, oh, right. Neither of these people is like a pure villain or a pure victim. Because what do you mean you're blindsided? I feel that, of course, we have so many criticisms for Catie, and like she could be more direct, but like, I don't know, pick up on context clues. I feel like this was a very predictable conversation.
I think someone who is like continually trying to kiss people outside the relationship and like saying all the time that your sex life is bad and unfulfilling. That was a bit telling for me. And also, I'm still not over him getting blackout drunk. He literally told her not to get blackout drunk, and then he got blackout drunk. Like that, I was kind of like, okay, so maybe you guys have a more similar relationship with alcohol than I previously thought.
I know. It does make you wonder. Like, I feel that we've been seeing the ways in which Catie overdoes it with alcohol and depends on it. But I don't know. I think it would be really, really hard to be in a relationship where you weren't drinking a similar amount to your partner. Yeah. And so if one of you is being accused of having alcohol dependence issues, I'm not saying it's not possible, but it's hard to believe that the other person wouldn't be struggling with that too.
I also feel it's rare in life that when there is an unhealthy dynamic, that only one person is participating in an unhealthy way. I'm not saying it can never happen. There obviously are really extreme cases, but I feel like especially these type of things like Debby and Mido, Josh, Catie, it's like the person who is, let's say, being harmed more in the dynamic, we are kind of seeing like the role they play in perpetuating the dynamic too. And I'm not trying to victim blame. It just is like a push and pull in all these relationships. It's kind of interesting to see how they also feed into it.
For sure. And to be explicitly clear, that doesn't then equalize the situation. It doesn't mean like, oh, well, because this, like Debby also did fucked up stuff or Josh also did fucked up stuff, that means that they deserve each other. Not at all. It doesn't.
It's just in the sense of like seeing how this relationship is formed and sustained. They both play roles in that. That's all. And honestly, one thing I'll add to that, even in the conversation we saw with Edward and Marissa at the dinner, I don't know if that's how they always fight, but seeing the combination of Marissa getting really activated in a way that did feel disproportionate, but then Edward continuing to kind of like needle her when she was like, stop saying that, stop saying that. It was also interesting for me to see, like, I think it wouldn't have escalated that much if Edward had just said, oh, okay, and then stop talking.
Yes.
Again, I'm not blaming Edward for the dynamic, but it is interesting to see how these dynamics and conversations feed into themselves, you know?
Very much agree.
Next up, we have Ashia and Maxwell, who have 2 days to wed. So 2 days to wed, and what are we doing? We're picking out the fabric for her wedding dress.
So this has to be staged, right?
Everyone is scaring me. At least she's shopping with Blaze, Maxwell's sister, and at least Blaze acknowledges that she herself is a designer and she already has a seamstress lined up who is promised to have a turnaround under 48 hours. So at least she's acknowledging the crazy timeline.
Okay.
But I'm very stressed about the way these people on this show plan things.
I'm also so confused because I'm like, didn't we decide that we're getting married a week ago? You couldn't have first thing you did go to get the dress.
Especially because I got extra stressed when I learned they were shopping for fabric. Not even pre-configured dresses. Fabric.
Come on.
Okay. And I will say the fabrics at the shop were gorgeous.
Oh my God, gorge.
So while they're shopping, Blaze again expresses some concerns to Ashia about Maxwell's well-being and specifically how he's going to be treated in the US. And she does kind of say this is coming up for her in part because of how Rod was speaking to Maxwell, which I think is very fair because Rod's weird xenophobia towards Maxwell was not cool.
Not cool.
Although we understand Rod's concerns about the timeline of the relationship, the specific way he was kind of condescending Maxwell and, you know,
Africa
launching
as a
stereotypes.
whole. Yeah.
The stereotypes were really not helpful. And so I can see why Blaze would be concerned that's how Maxwell might be received in the US.
For sure.
But Ashia actually said something which I thought was kind of a good point, which is she said, like, one of the benefits of her being older is that she is more established and that she is going to be able to help Maxwell settle into his life, which I was like, you know what, fair point, I'll take it.
Yeah.
And Blaze also says she's concerned that Maxwell does things like just to please Ashia. Okay, I don't know.
I'm curious what she meant by that. Unfortunately, we didn't get more details, but I'm like, is that something important or not? I'm not sure.
I wonder to what degree this is because they're not following the gender norms that Blaze seems to very strictly adhere to versus to what degree it's like she's genuinely worried about her brother on an individual level. Because it honestly seems like Maxwell likes being a little bit, I'm not going to say submissive, but he kind of likes also going with the flow when Ashia does stuff. Like, he doesn't seem to have an issue with that.
I think he likes being taken care of by her.
Yeah. Then the next section, which is the next day, aka the night before the wedding, Ashia is meeting up with godbrother Rod at a restaurant. Godbrother Rod, however, does not come alone. He also brings family friend Catie with him. Clearly, Ashia was not expecting Catie to also be there. And so she kind of has the feeling that they're going to ambush her.
She's right.
She's right. Okay, so Catie starts with sharing her concerns. And you know what? I think Catie was very respectful. And she basically said, like, she doesn't think Ashia's mom and sisters are being honest because they love her too much to really say anything. And, you know, I always agree with this. I think that's true. Like, love is not always just about agreeing with people. So I think it's cool that Kathy's like, they love you and I love you. And my love is manifesting in, you know, me telling you my concerns. I agree with that.
I also think that something like an aunt figure, a slightly more distant family friend or family member, I think has an ability to kind of come with harsh truths that someone closer, it would be a lot harder for them. There'd be a lot more fallout. And so I admire her for kind of, I think, understanding her role in this greater family dynamic and stating her piece.
I agree with that. And her thesis basically is that they're moving too fast. And she just wants Ashia to think before she jumps into marriage. And she's kind of like, you know, I know you're getting to know these people. You just don't know them that well. Like, you don't have enough evidence of, you know, what the family's like. You've spent a week with them and it's been a good week. But, like, I think you should take more time before you get married.
I have to agree with her. I mean,
I know.
Low-key, this conversation, I was reminded of exactly how little time has passed and, like, the actual situation they're in. And I was kind of reminding myself of how we felt when we, with them, first got in Nigeria and like what we knew before we left Alabama. And I'm like, no, wait, yeah, this is a crazy situation. I feel like I've kind of gotten used to it. And so I'm not seeing it for what it is. But I'm like, no, I would be really concerned if I were these people too. And
I completely agree with Catie. And I also understand where Rod is coming from. I just think sometimes he verges into this thing where I'm like, okay, no, but don't use that argument. But like,
yeah,
in general, I get them being like, wait, what the hell? You just met this guy. There is this weird like fraud word in the air. Like, let's figure this out before you get married. I think that's so true. And Rod brings up that he's worried about the challenges Maxwell will face in the US, and again says he's like a newborn baby. And he keeps basically saying that he feels Maxwell has like no like skills or experience that could get him a job in the US. And I like kind of wonder what he means by that, because Maxwell, as far as I know, is like an educated guy who, like, for example, with the car reselling, I'm not sure like what kind of jobs that would translate to in the US. But for example, his dad has taught him how to be an electrician. Of course, there are probably specific things in the US he might not know, or he might need to like get certified, specific training or certification to be able to like join a union. Or okay, but it's not like the things he knows have completely evaporated. Like, it's still a starting point for something.
I know. Also, even the car salesman, I'm like, yeah, I think that they have car salesman in Alabama. Like, I think he could even just do that.
Also, honestly, America is the land of, and I say this coming from a German perspective, America is the land of or equivalent experience.
Yeah.
If you don't have the specific something, you can be like, well, but I did this, and this, and, you know, I could apply these skills. Okay. In a normal job market. But if the job market's bad, it's bad either way. So that also is kind of a moot point. But like, I genuinely feel if you have some sort of skills, even if they aren't exactly the same in the US, like, you could pull the core out of, through this experience, I learned this and apply it. Like, I think it's just very weird that Rod is saying like Maxwell's like an empty resume. I don't think that's true.
I don't think so either.
Then this thing happens, which I think was so funny. Ashia's talking about, well, Rod, you're a business person and like, you know how it works, that, you know, most of the time hiring, it's like, oh, my cousin's looking for a job, you know, can you help my friend out, whatever. And Rod's like, yeah. So who do you know who's going to be helping Maxwell out? And Aisha goes, you.
So Aisha.
And Rod is like, you want me to get Maxwell a job?
That is so funny of her. I'm like, Aisha, surely you can pick up on the vibe that Rod would have literally no interest in doing that for you.
Rod just said this man has no skills or abilities, and you're like, so you're gonna give him a job, right?
Aisha just kind of does live in like a fantasy world where I do think that Maxwell probably has skills that are transferable to some type of job. At the very minimum, he could, at the very least, I'm sure he can get a minimum wage job. You know, like he can make some money. But Aisha is kind of deluded in thinking like Rod will just hand him a job. I'm like, it's just not how it works.
I know.
Especially not Rod. You're literally on like thin ice with him right now. Why would he hook your
nemesis? I know.
Why would he hook him up with a job?
And so, again, I really do respect Rod and Kathy's concern here. I just wish Rod could be a little clearer about what his actual concern is. Because I feel like he kind of throws stuff out to see what sticks. And, like, basically none of it sticks on Aisha. So it just kind of seems like he's complaining in a general way.
I agree.
I think if he could narrow down his focus on, like, the timeline or the fraud accusation at the consulate, or, like, I think that might be more effective. But also Aisha does believe that God ordained this, and therefore I think there's almost nothing anyone could say to change her mind about that.
Surely.
And Aisha pretty much says that her and Maxwell have already committed to each other, and so therefore the timeline doesn't matter, because if they get married now or in a year, they're still committed to each other. And I get what she's trying to say, but actually it is different to be legally bound to someone through marriage.
Yes. I fear that being engaged is not the same thing as being married. I think there's an important distinction.
And then Rod asks if it would be okay if he went home early and skipped the wedding. When it comes to attending or not attending a wedding, I feel like if the expectation is that you will attend a wedding due to your relationship to someone, the choice to then actively not attend, assuming it's not a financial question, like in this case, Rod is literally in town and it's tomorrow, right? I think the choice to not attend is a very active one, whereas I feel like at this point, the choice to attend is more of a passive one. He's already there.
Right.
Everyone's going, the expectation. So I do think it's like a very strong statement to not go. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I struggle with this as well. Like, I get why he's like doesn't want to sign off on it. But the truth is it's going to happen whether he signs off or not. I don't think his presence is like he's some way. I don't view him as being like complicit if he attends. So I think this is like kind of aggressive on his side and like a little bit more
like manipulative,
petty or manipulative than anything. I don't think it's really, he's not boycotting in a way that's like really going to change anything.
I also think it's an even stronger thing because Rod, unlike the sisters and the family friend, he knew that Aisha had plans to get married. So it's like, okay, why did you fly out here if you're just going to be petty and not attend the wedding anyway? That's crazy.
He said he flew out to like shake some sense into her.
I know. So that's where I'm like, okay, you're being annoying.
Like I'm even thinking about Astra, Debbie's friend. And now she's like, pretty much, I don't support this, but I know I can't stop it. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's a pretty good approach to understand, like when you can do something about it, when you can't. Rod has not yet understood that he can't stop it. And I think that's kind of the trouble. It's like, it's already done. You know what I mean? Like, so you're just creating additional friction without actually creating more impact. You already made it clear you don't support it. You're not capable of stopping it. So then why are you continuing to cause conflict here, you know?
Yeah, I think that that's the key.
But then this was interesting. Aisha said every month she loses an egg, so she needs to face reality and move quickly. And Rod's like, oh, so it's about you wanting to get knocked up right away. And then she goes, no, it's not. We're not trying to get knocked up right away. And he's like, you just said that. Like, you just said you're losing an egg every month. So like, and then she's like, no. And he gets really annoyed with her and he slams his hands down on the table and she gets up and she goes, I don't do violence. Which, look, I do respect that, but Aisha, you low-key baited the guy. You just said some stuff and then completely changed what you said.
I feel like this is a perfect example of like no one here was acting correctly.
I know. Except honestly, Kathy. Kathy didn't do anything wrong.
Kathy's just sitting there like,
Like she's like, I said my piece. I feel like she felt like she needed to say it so that she could sleep well, knowing that her saying one thing wasn't the difference between the marriage going through or not. Mm-hmm. Okay, fine. But Rod, it's just like, I get him. And also, what is the point of this, honestly?
Yeah, I feel that, as we've said, he's really crossed from the boundary of giving feedback in a different perspective, and he is truly just trying to control what Aisha does. And it's like, I really do understand the inclination, but it's like, that's not appropriate either. And like, it's not good for your relationship. It's not good for even the goal that you have. Like, you know, I think people just have to go through experiences and figure it out themselves sometimes.
I agree. And that was the end of that. That wraps up the episode.
Thank you so much, everyone, for listening to today's episode. Please make sure you're following us wherever you're listening right now, and make sure you also give us a 5-star review and a comment if possible. Please also feel free to follow us on social media. We are at My Best View Pod, primarily on Instagram and TikTok.
See you next week.
Bye.